Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I have yet another movie review. This movie is a martial arts film from Indonesia, Indonesian language English subs, released in the year 2018, directed by Timo Tjahjanto, and this film is called The Night Comes For Us. So The Night Comes For Us is set in the criminal underworld of the Triad. You've got the Chinese element, you've also got the Indonesian element. So the Chinese element, they're very, very powerful, and they've told this enforcer named Ito that he has to take a death squad to a rural village because the Chinese element of the Triad have basically accuse them of stealing money. So Ito takes his henchmen, he massacres everyone in the village, all except for one little girl. Now the little girl is just lambs to the slaughter, and Ito is about to kill her, but he has a change of heart. He ends up betraying the Triad. So the Chinese bosses are furious at Ito, and they actually want him on the hit list as well. And so not only are they going to try and kill the girl to send Ito a message, but they're also going to kill him and those close to him. But then Ito has to take it into his own hands to fight off the oncoming enemy, and unfortunately, loyalties and friendships from his past are going to be put to the absolute test because those he once thought were covering his back are actually up against him now. So whether or not he can survive this onslaught and protect this innocent girl is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Night Comes For Us. This is another Netflix film, and it's an Indonesian Netflix film, and it's an Indonesian martial arts movie, so that should get anyone excited if you have watched the movies from Gareth Evans called The Raid and The Raid 2. As soon as those movies come out, Indonesia really exploded on the map, and I will say that not only The Raid and The Raid 2 have absolute masterpieces as far as martial arts epics are concerned, but Indonesia have created some pretty impressive stuff apart from that. There are some pretty impressive horror films directed by this director. This is a martial arts movie, but Timo Tjahjanto is very well known for his horror and his brutality, especially in a movie called Macabre. I thought Macabre is a film that was very underrated. Not many people talk about it. So when it comes to Indonesian film, The Raid and The Raid 2 are definitely the movies that stick above everyone else. But Timo Tjahjanto, and he actually has a sidekick named Kimo Stambol, they're very good directors too, and there's another director called Joko Anwar who is a very good director. So Indonesia, they really know how to make films, and I just definitely think that The Raid and The Raid 2 got Indonesia on the map from those martial arts epics, and those martial arts epics created a superstar in Iko Uwais. Iko Uwais is just this fantastic martial artist, and he's actually in this movie as well. And there are a few familiar faces from The Raid and The Raid 2 that are playing in this film, and so I thought, alright, well, this is a recipe for success. I'm going to get into another martial arts epic with a fantastic superstar, like an Asian version of Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, all those fantastic superstars back in the past that made movies the way that they are, the very fun films. And so Iko Uwais is another action superstar, and to see him in another film, I just couldn't wait to see what he could produce in this film. And I will say that this movie is incredibly impressive in the martial arts choreography. Again, it's just absolutely breathtaking. You have to basically take a breather at the end of it because it's so frenetic, it's so brutal. This film is absolutely bloody. It's absolutely extreme, and it's right up there with The Raid and The Raid 2 as far as violence is concerned. So it really doesn't hold back anything. It's something that I expected from this director because he is a horror director, and the violence in this movie is horrific. It's almost like a horror film, but it's a martial arts action film. So the choreography is not only fantastic, but the gore effects were fantastic. It's, as I said, very gory film. So it's a very hardened movie. This movie got an R18 plus here in Australia, which is rare these days. So Timo Tjahjanto really ups the level as far as brutality is concerned. And so when all this fighting is going ahead, I just thought to myself, this is the carnage that I wanted to see. So the acting was fairly decent. Iko Uwais doesn't play the usual character that he has played in The Raid. He plays a different type. I'm not going to tell you what happens. He plays a different type of character, and I didn't think as though he was in the movie enough. He does showcase his talent and his abilities in the martial arts department, but I would have liked to see him a little bit more. But I thought the character of Ito was fairly interesting. Although the movie didn't really hit me on an emotional base, this is a film that definitely you're in awe of the spectacle of the fighting and the ability to capture that fighting in a way that is very fast-paced and frenetic. I still thought the story, it does play to some degree to actually keep the film going along, so it prevents you from being boring, but it's definitely a film that you want to watch the action, and the action really overclouds the story, which is ultimately the problem to this film, is that yes, there is a lot of action, yes, it's very, very impressive, but I thought to myself there wasn't enough difference in this movie to separate it from The Raid and The Raid 2. So unfortunately, when you've got brilliant movies such as The Raid, other films are going to be compared to that film. And so I thought to myself, there just wasn't enough of its own material to warrant this as a film of its own shadow. I kept thinking as though I've seen this sort of thing before, all this fantastic explosions, shooting, you know, decapitations, gore, everything like that. I've seen this before. And so Indonesia, they're really milking the martial arts. They're milking the superstar of Iko Uwais, and I just felt as though this is a recycled version of The Raid and The Raid 2. It's not quite as good as those movies, but it's still very impressive in what it does. But the impressive qualities are ultimately qualities that I've seen before. So the story, I just didn't really connect to the characters as much as I really wanted to. As I said, Iko Uwais plays a role where I thought to myself, well, okay, it's kind of like he doesn't fight as much as I really wanted to see him fight. And so if you have a movie that has an action superstar, I just don't think there was sufficient action to really come across as a rewarding experience. And there's other characters that come into the movie that were very cool. I guess you could say they're cool because very larger than life caricature sort of characters. But again, the characters in this movie that come into the film, especially the female characters, I felt as though it was like Hammer Girl in The Raid 2. And if you've seen The Raid 2, you know exactly what I mean. Larger-than-life characters come into the film that make you feel as though this is an awesome type of movie, a very fun film. But again, a lot of this is very reminiscent of The Raid. And so I thought to myself, fantastic cinematography, fantastic martial arts. The choreography is absolutely second to none, and Indonesia is really becoming a leader as far as martial arts epics are concerned. But this film, I just thought, okay, it goes for 2 hours, and the story just didn't really carry it all the way through, and I was just basically waiting for the next martial arts choreography to come about. And so it's basically just, you're in awe of the action scenes, but unfortunately the story doesn't complement it as much, and I just thought to myself, there's not enough of a difference from The Raid and to actually make this an absolutely fantastic masterclass as far as action films are concerned. So action, it really ticks the right boxes. This is a masterclass in choreography, and you're actually putting together fight scenes. But unfortunately, as far as the story is concerned, I just didn't think it had enough depth to really carry it as an overall piece. So for that, I'm going to give The Night Comes For Us 3.5 stars, but still go and see it because the fight scenes are unbelievable, and it's one of the most brutal action films that you will see. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.